This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
The first 3 rounds took us to Europe, the US, and now back across the pond, the old world once more. The Nürburgring introduces our competitors to another chapter in this fascinating season. Moda finds himself outgunned by the new talent for the first time in a while, but that new talent's aggression has cost them a few good finishes in the first 2 races. What will today's event hold in store for us? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Young. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Adam, we come back to the ring, but before anyone panics, it's the GP course.
Although, I'd love to see these GTE cars on the full ring, but not today. No, we're going to be running the Grand Prix circuit here at the Nürburgring, 3.2 miles, 5.15 kilometers, 16 turns around here. Of course, the GP circuit came into being after they made massive changes to the Nürburgring back in the early 80s, and, well, they demolished actually part of the old Nürburgring, built this track kind of around it, kind of in its shell, and it really hasn't had too much in the way of major changes over the years, although a few, like most Formula One tracks, adding runoffs and a few adjustments to the chicane, stuff like that. But overall, well, it's pretty close to what it always has been. And with that, we'll go ahead and take a lap around the Nürburgring GP track.
Sporstcar and the GSRC4 GT, so let's do a lap around the Nürburgring. Down at a How Cook, this first corner will see a lot of attempts at overtakes, but it's an incredibly sharp hairpin, so it's easy to get tangled up with your opponent if you're not careful. This leads you into the Mercedes arena, which is mostly made up of slower speed corners. It'll take patience if you get caught up behind a slower car through here, because unless you're significantly faster, it's unlikely that you'll get by. Eventually, this last chicane takes you back onto the main circuit, but there's a lot of runoff that's considered fair game to the outside, so expect to see a lot of drivers use every inch and then some. Heading down to Valvoline, it's not as common for anyone to manage a pass into it since this downhill turn takes more speed than you'd expect. If anything, it's best to use it to set up for Ford, which is probably the more important of the two. As the track continues to drop in elevation, you can see ahead that we're coming up to the Dunlop hairpin. If you got a bad exit out of Ford, expect your opponent to go onto the attack into here. There's not much special to it. Like a lot of hairpins, you simply square off the exit to give yourself a nice launch. Immediately you'll be switching sides though, because you'll need the widest entry possible into the Schumacher S. It requires a little lift on the entry, so expect it to be mostly single file through this section. From there, you're now speeding towards 11, and this is another spot where a pass could happen from time to time. The paved runoff to the outside of the exit will really tempt you to carry more speed into it, but it's much more important to get the car off to the left and ready for Bilstein. If you're slow off of here, it's going to make you a sitting duck. It's a long, flat-out run through the kink and up the hill to the Vidal chicane. However, it gets sort of interesting in this little left-right jink. This is the endurance layout, so it's much faster than the Grand Prix version, which is tight and promotes overtaking. Passes will need confidence, maybe a nose ahead. From there, you've got a short burst up to Coca-Cola. It's another one where you've got to focus on your corner exit because you're now back onto the pit straight. Most drivers will be eager to set up a pass down to the first corner, so momentum will be critical. But hopefully you've now finished a lap around the Nürburgring. There you see a lap around the Nürburgring from behind the Ford GT, but as always, today's race is brought to you by SIMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products create an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series will get a Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team in the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Thanks to both of them for helping make this series possible come to air. Now, let's take a look at the championship points. We've got both drivers and teams to go over. Adam?
Yeah, let's take a look at those drivers standings, see who's in the front-running position to maybe pick up some of those Butt Kicker products. Abner Acosta coming home in first position here so far. Keep in mind, still early on in the season, still lots of room to move, and you can see that the top five, very competitive right now. Dino Filippa is in second, and I actually don't believe I see him so far on the rundown here for today. Zachary Hefner moved up a spot last race. He's sitting in third, and once again, of course, young in the season, you'll see some big moves. Up 10 spots, Michael Diaz up 8 spots, Carl Madev, and so lots of room to move around there. Let's go ahead and take a look at those team standings here. And of course, I mentioned, hey, everybody on the teams list, winning team, free t-shirts. I'll take a free t-shirt any time. And who's leading that one? That's going to be Obsidian Racing. That's going to be Acosta and Diaz, both Americans. Second place right now, Raccoon B Racer with Philippa and Borda. They're only 13 points behind, but they did lose that top spot last week. Third is Speedworks Racing Team West. Fourth is going to go to Racing Sim Tools Podium Hunters. And I really like the Podium Hunter scheme. I'm not going to lie to you. Team Bushfink Copper. And we see those Bushfink guys around everywhere while they're trying to make a statement here this season. They're up 3 spots in the 5th.
Thanks for that, Adam. Real quick, let's tell you how today's race is actually going to go if you haven't watched the first 2 rounds. As we mentioned, we are on round 3. Now, there are drop weeks, so even though we mentioned that Filippa doesn't seem to be here today, he could still win the championship as long as he stays consistent, but he's under the gun now. 4 different makes of cars are available. They're all GTE spec cars, the Porsche, the Ferrari, the Ford, and the BMW. Now, if you're used to previous seasons where it was 45 minutes, they've upped this. It's 60 minutes. It is still only 1 pit stop, though, and that is because they still have a restricted fuel cell on these cars, so they can't make the normal distance that the real ones could. The setups are open, though, and they can tweak them to their liking. They do have an incident cap at 24, and that means that if you go over that with enough off tracks or problems out there on track, you will be disqualified, so you got to keep it clean today. No spare car to save you either with those incidents, so if you have any sort of damage, you got to come in and get that fixed. And as always, this race, this series is brought to you on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe when you get the opportunity. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed already, you'll see a big red button that says so. Click that, and you'll get all of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series in your YouTube feed. Currently watching the qualifying, and currently Caraballo is on provisional pole. He looks like he is going to try to continue his good form that he found at Watkins Glen after his poor first race there at Monza. And Monza, of course, wasn't really so much his fault. He got tipped around, but he's got some company, Adam, with some familiar names. Costa, Diaz, Flores we're seeing up there, but I do not see Modov, our two-time champion.
Modov hadn't even set a time yet. I mean, he laid on a 48.091 in practice, which right now, if he was able to duplicate that, that would put him up into the 5th position. But we're waiting to see if he's actually able to complete a lap here and get one in qualifying. I've got my eye on that. We'll see if he's able to actually get one down. He's not even on track at this point, and they got 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the session.
This is getting awful tight for him, so he's got to get out there. In fact, I think if he only got out now, he'd have time for 1 single lap. This is horrible news for Karl Modov. Hopefully everything is okay where he is. I do see him having connected and disconnected a couple times, so I wonder if he's having a little bit of issues with his internet. This is Abner Acosta, currently sitting on the inside of row 2 and has about 1/10 and a half to get up to the pole. Let's see if he can try and do something this time by as he comes up to the NGK chicane. This is the more open chicane if you're used to watching Formula One here. So, Adam, I do still think we should probably see passes, but I have to imagine that's going to be a lot tougher.
That's going to be real tough going into that chicane. There's a lot more flowing than what you find in the Formula One. I mean, you're able to take that in pretty much third gear in GT3 cars, GTE cars. Almost every flavor of car, you're able to take that a lot higher speed. It doesn't really give you an opportunity to really kind of cut underneath something, because when you take it at much higher speed, well, it's going to kind of shrink that track width just a little bit. So probably not a lot of passes there. We'll see some in other places. I mean, we got Hog out there. That's going to be a spot going down into turn 1 that I think we'll see a lot of passing going on. In particular, especially coming off that long front straightaway there. Also going down into Michelin, I expect to actually see some passes. And also down in Dunlop. Dunlop, of course, being a long sweeper, but if you have just enough room to stick a nose down there, you should be okay to maybe try to complete a pass.
We'll see where they find room to get around as we watch Flores, who sits in 5th. Abner Acosta is done with his qualifying because he came into the pits. I believe he had a little bit of a spin, so Flores kind of going to try to go faster. Acosta did go faster himself, but he stays behind Utredes on the 2nd row. See if Flores can get off the 3rd row and a little bit higher. He comes to cross the line, and it's not a faster lap. Looks like that was a warm-up lap even potentially. It was a 52 flat. So we go to Peterson, and that one also not faster for Leaf, and he pulls over, so he's done for the day too. Just a minute left to go.
Looking at Zachary Hefner here. He's coming down, and see if he's able to improve his time any. He's sitting in 7th right now with the 48.7. Going through the chicane.
F came in new last season, but won some races along the way. No surprise he's been performing well so far this season. The 48.7 was his first lap that he set, and this one is a 48.5, 0.2 faster. unfortunately.
Oh, still 200ths of a second though off Sean McBeth, so he doesn't get to move any.
Caraballo is going to be the next one around. And he's only set one time out here, but it's still good enough for pole. And this most recent one still doesn't count for him.
Look at first and second, Joe, between Diaz and Caraballo.
Oh, my goodness. When did Diaz come across the line?
Right in front of him, just by a couple of cars.
It's
wow.
tied to within 1,000th. But for those not familiar, iRacing...
Yeah, iRacing does go out a couple more decimal places that they really don't show us. I believe out to 6. Don't ask me off the top of my head just how much that is, because I'd have to think about that. But it's somewhere down there, there is a difference. The Caraballo edges out Diaz. Literally edges out.
Incredible. Flores is going to abandon his last lap. So the next one coming through is going to be Tony Costello. The checkered flag has come out. So this is it for qualifying. What you're on is what you're going to get. And hopefully it's your fastest lap if you're on a flyer. So he's right on board with Costello coming through that NGK chicane, then into Coca-Cola, the last corner on the lap, a right-hand hairpin. Pulls off of there. He's currently sitting 23rd with a 49.5. And it's going to be a 49.5 as well, but only 100th faster, so he stays in 23rd.
We'll go to Zachary Hefner here, see if he's able to improve his time once again. And he's going to get one more shot at it here, coming across the line. 48.5 last time, 48.9 this time, 4/10 slower.
Yeah, no dice. So Andre Espinoza, who's down in 13th, could get his shot. He came across the line in time, if I'm not mistaken. From his behavior, it looks like he did, because he's going to come around the last corner. The number 87 puts up another non-lap. Looks like he had an off-track somewhere. Eisler goes faster, 48.6. That bumps him up to P8. A good performance for him, and that is going to be the last of our qualifying. So let's go through your starting grid. Moises Caraballo will be starting in first, with Michael Diaz starting in second. That's how they finished last race, interestingly. Javi Gutierrez will be third, with Abner Acosta starting fourth. And then it's Jorge Flores, P5. Sean McBeth on the outside of row 3 in 6, with Zach Hefner in 7th. Christian Eisler, a late qualifying attempt, getting him up to 8th place. Pablo Uribe in 9th. And then Jeffrey Arroyan rounds out your top 10.
Yeah, and our entire top 10 there separated by less than a second. So just outside of that second of the pole sitter is you'll find Nick Harwood in 11th position, Leif Peterson qualifying in 12th. In row 7, Andres Espinoza and Daniel in 13th and 14th. Pete Mobrotin in 8th. In Anthony Pisano in 16th position. Rodrigo Munez in row 9. Alongside him will be Justin Rem. And Michael Stogbauer in 19th position, and 20th, Matthew Tina.
Josh Daniels starts in the 21st spot, with Cody Bauman in 22nd. Then it's Tony Costello, who we watched unable to improve his time. He starts 23rd. Cristobal Valenzuela will be 24th on the grid. Kenny Rodriguez, P25. Takeshi Kita was the last driver to get a time in qualifying, 26. And I see that Carl Modoff is in the session. I'm not sure if he's going to... Yes, he has gridded up. So he'll start 27th. William Laster, 28th. Corey Clark, 29th. And yes, he is in the session as well. Tyler Gilmet will be 30th. And then Joey Trungale rounds out your 31-car field here today in round 3.
And Joe, I was looking at Carl Modoff there when he was kind of disconnecting, reconnecting, disconnecting, reconnecting. I think you're right. I think he was having connection issues, but it looks stable right now. So hopefully he's going to be in a good spot. And it's not the first time this season he's had to come from the back and try to get his way up to the front. So that's definitely going to be a car to watch and see how easy or how difficult or easy of a time he has about getting around traffic.
Yeah, he qualified horribly in Monza, but at least he got a qualifying time in there. Here, he didn't even get a shot, and it's a slow takeoff behind the Porsche pace car. Moises Caraballo waiting a decent amount of time before he accelerates. He's going to be challenged by Michael Diaz when it goes green. Let's see what kind of jump he can get, though, once the flag falls. He is giving just a long ways back to that pace car. Not sure if he's looking for some sort of jump or what.
Might be trying to judge when the pace car comes off.
Well, it's already into the pit lane. He's waiting patiently for the green flag. Now he accelerates away as he does get a good jump on Michael Diaz. We go green for round 3 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series here at the Nürburgring. Diaz doesn't have an answer down in the first corner. In fact, he's under threat because there goes Gutierrez and the yellow car to his inside. Not sure that he's going to be able to get it done, as a little bit of 3 wide in the back, but otherwise it is a clean start for the field.
Yeah, Utraris, he really braked very well going into turn 1, but wasn't able to complete that move. And meanwhile, Acosta and Flores going at, that's going to settle out with Acosta in front of Flores. For the most part, these things have started to settle down, getting into single file. We have to go back to 13th position before we find anything. That's going to be Leif Peterson and Andres Espinoza. They've still got some things to settle out here.
2 small lofts in the first lap. Uribe and Baumann don't need to go back to it, though. They both just had a trip through the grass and kept going. As the leaders come down to Dunlop for the first time, Caraballo trying to pull away from Diaz. He's got half a second between himself and the number 45. The top 3 already getting a slight breakaway, but the rest of the pack all bunched up.
And we'll see that this track will lead to some drafting, particularly going down that front straightaway. So we'll see if that helps keep things a little bit closer together through the middle part of the pack. But that front pack should have an easier time starting to try to separate themselves out. And particularly, I think here for your first 3 positions, your podium spots will start to separate themselves out here in a few. But Caraballo really running very well here to start.
And you see a car off to the side going very slow. That's Sean Macbeth. He must have had some sort of slowdown penalty. He just pulled over and hit the binders as everybody flew by. That jumps him down to 11th place, unfortunately. And I think he's going to have to serve a black flag. There he goes into the pits. No, he's coming back. Not without a little bit of contact, and even more contact behind him. Who is that? That was Justin Rame getting spun in the back of the field.
And I was looking at Sean Macbeth here, and I'm not sure what precipitated that, because I didn't see anything that was worthy of a penalty there to start the race.
So he came, you can see he came back to the racing line after it looked like he was going to pit, and that was Rodrigo Munoz that he got into the side of. Everybody was trying to check up to stay out of the mess ahead of them, and that's what caused Rame to get hit by Tina. Now you see Rame came out the worst of it, unfortunately. Tina continues in 17th.
And for what it's worth, we're sitting here circulating right now on lap 2. Modoff has already gained 6 spots.
Whew, what a climb. Yeah, up to 20th. And he's looking to get another one because that is Uribe in front of him, but looks like Pablo's going to go defensive down into Dunlop. This looks like it's going to be a little bit fruitless, frankly. We know the speed that Carl has, and I expect that he's probably going to be able to overtake Uribe sooner rather than later.
And Pablo knows this. I mean, he's an experienced guy. I mean, he might just be trying to, just to slow him up for later, for maybe helping out a teammate or something. But there's a certain point you run defensive, you're slowing yourself down. Sometimes it's faster just to let him by. But, like I said, Pablo's experienced. He knows that. Eventually, I think he's just going to let him go. Now, Matthew Tina, on the other hand, very slow. We saw him just pass by, and he's getting past left and right here. I don't see any damage on the car, but he is definitely off the pace.
So is Harwood. He's been going very slow, and something must have happened in Coca-Cola. He was going slow even before this. Yeah, it looks like multiple drivers have been having to serve slowdowns.
Not sure where they're picking him up at, though.
I wonder if it's the Schumacher S, maybe. He was in the midst of a lot of chaos there when we came back live. Pisano, Munoz, and Macbeth all in a battle. Macbeth, remember, one of the drivers had to serve a slowdown as well. And when we say slowdown, for those not familiar, if you cut the course here in iRacing, the software automatically gives you amount of time, a penalty that you have to pay and give back before you get to a certain point on the track. If you don't, you are black flagged. So that's why we see these drivers suddenly going slow.
It at least that's our theory. And it looks definitely plausible as far as the theory. Just still, I didn't see them really step out too far. That's the weird thing. I mean, I'd expect that seeing that somewhere like Spa, but I don't think I've ever seen it here before.
So on board Munoz, we're looking back at the Bushfink car of Nick Harwood, who currently runs 15th. Nick started in 11th, so what he lost wasn't too drastic, but he's still down from where he gridded up. He's in a whole train of cars, frankly.
Yeah, and look who's leading that train of cars. We got Carl Modoff, only now just right back there. I told you he's going to be exciting to watch here through today, and he's definitely making his way up through the field.
Oh, we had a car spin behind him that was Uribe, who went off track at the chicane. It was all on his own, didn't make any contact. Although he went flying nearly. He hit a curb very weird. You see him outbrake himself and then watch the inside curb of the second apex here. Woo. Wheels off the ground. Could have done some damage to the under tray, but the car's still going.
I'll have to look at his lap times here in a little bit, see if that compromised him at all. Like you mentioned with the under tray there on these GTE cars, it's definitely a point that you got to worry about. And lots of aerodynamics. Lots of air runs underneath the car.
They run pretty big diffusers on these cars, that's for sure. So easy enough to damage those. Let's check back in with our leaders because we haven't been up there in a while. Caraballo and Diaz are starting to run away, and they've got about 6/10 between them. But Utreras, who's been chasing, has fallen back to over a second now and is even kind of into the clutches of Acosta and Flores.
It's amazing, just like in qualifying, how close Caraballo and Michael Diaz's lap times are. And then again, that second pack, Utreras, Acosta, Flores. I mean, you got two different distinct groups right there, and between the front two and these next three, they're all running pretty identical lap times for their pack.
Curious to see if Diaz will do a similar strategy to what we've seen in the first two rounds, in which both times he kind of hung out behind the car ahead and tried to save a bit of fuel. Now, it bit him in the first round where he unfortunately underfueled it, had to come in for a second time. But he did it well at Watkins Glen and even overtook second on the track and looked like he had good pace at the end, but he didn't have enough to try and chase down the leader as we come back to 10th place between Mo Broughton and Peterson. This is heading through the Mercedes arena. Mo Broughton is the BMW C with the blue and white. The black and blue behind him, and the Porsche is Lee Peterson. Through Valvoline and Ford off the corner, trying to get himself a launch, but currently it looks like Mo Broughton's got the legs on him as he puts himself a little bit more distance between the two cars.
Yeah, I think what I'm looking at here and just kind of watching these guys over the last little bit, definitely have Leaf seems like he's better in the first half of the track. Mo Broughton better in the second half, so that's going to be a question of which half is going to eventually win out there, but it does definitely seem like Mo Broughton's starting to pull away.
And more action with Modoff because he's...
I've been watching him, man. He is on a tear. Modoff is now just all over Nick Harwood, and actually been trying to now get around here for almost a full lap, but might finally get him here. Gonna make a move.
Have to go the long way around, almost gets squeezed off, but he's given space off to the grass, stays right underneath that rear wing through the chicane and into Coca-Cola, squares off the corner. This could be what he needed. This is an excellent launch. Look at how close he is to the back of that car ahead. The number 19 does not defend. This time he lets the Technicolor car of our two-time champion slip up the inside, and could look for an over-under, but I'm not sure that he's going to be on the correct side into the Mercedes arena. Give 15th to Modoff.
Yeah, Modoff didn't even really give him a chance to defend there. And great run through Coca-Cola. I mean, kind of see, he ran a little bit wide with the purpose of being able to get back on that throttle a little earlier, and that worked out perfect for that run down the front straightaway to complete that move. Next up, Michael Stogbauer. That's going to be the next target there for Karl Modoff.
Now, did Peterson get recently passed? Macbeth is suddenly ahead of him.
Yeah, Macbeth was able to get around Peterson. Peterson here, since we left him, looks like something happened because he dropped about 1.5 seconds.
Let's take a look at the replay. What if he just had a little bobble or something? Well, looks like just a little slow off the corner. Macbeth smelled blood in the water and snuck one in through Valvoline, nice and clean as you like. So that moves Macbeth up to 11th. He started on the 3rd row, so Macbeth has been steadily trying to climb his way back forward to at least where he began this race, but he's still got more positions to make up to get there.
Yeah, he got the short end of the stick in a few places there on the opening lap, and caused him to drop some of those spots, but slowly but surely starting to try to gain him back. And by the way, I did go back and look at Leif Peterson's lap before where he kind of dropped 1.5 seconds. I just think he just had a bad lap, maybe missed a few braking points or something like that. Never really had an off and just kind of compounded it. And you're right, Sean Macbeth spilled blood in the water and went after it.
Let's check in on Caraballo and Diaz, where it's extended slightly. Diaz has now dropped back to 0.8 of a second. Remember, it was about 6 or 7 tenths before. So again, it isn't huge margins here, Adam, but I'm starting to wonder if Diaz
here
is
and
going to
1,000th there.
Yeah. You don't have to win by much. You just have to be the first one across the line. So they come through Dunlop.
At least
Contreras.
At least visually, and it doesn't seem like they're dropping off too much, but that second group there with Utraris, Acosta, and Flores, it seems like they've kind of stopped the bleeding on time, and it's kind of settled out to about 1.5 seconds, 1.6 seconds. So we'll have to see if maybe they're able to start taking advantage and maybe get caught back up.
Watch from Karl Modoff back here in 15th, because already he's caught the next cars in line: Stogbauer, Rooney, Peterson, and then he'll set his sights on Macbeth ahead of him. But at first, he's got to deal with these three, and already he comes up to the BMW to within about 0.3 of a second. All 4 cars swinging it through. Look at how much more speed he carried through. Oh, the car starts to wobble, and he gets into the back of Stogbauer. Both cars spin. Stogbauer off the track, and it looks like Modoff had to back it up to try and get it going, but he loses multiple positions.
Ultimately, he really only lost, 3 fourth cars going by him, that being Stogbauer. Man, that put a stop to that run here for at least right now. He's going to have to make up more time than anything else. Lost a lot of time there. And I don't know if maybe he just misjudged when Stogbauer was going to break there for Coca-Cola, but just ran him over essentially.
It looks like he never really had control out of the chicane, if I'm honest, because the car just started wobbling. Maybe he just caught him quicker than he expected and was trying to get on the binders before the car had really planted itself. Hard to say, but whatever the case, he's in 19th now. So that allows Stogbauer to try and recollect himself, but positions lost. And Leif Peterson, though, I have to imagine, is happy about that one. He's trying to chase Danny Rooney.
Yeah, actually just lost that spot to Daniel Rooney here. Danny Rooney's able to get around Leif.
I think we've got this one. Let's check this out.
Yeah. See how he did it here.
Give him some credit.
Actually, picked a right spot. Another one of those smelt blood in the water situations.
Yeah,
Leif just doesn't seem like he's running as good a lap times as what he was right at the start of the race.
Wonder if Leaf might have some damage himself.
It's possible. At least the surface of the car looks good. But just to give you an example, he was able to pull 49s pretty consistently in practice. And in the race, he's only had one lap that was a 49 in the 49-second range. Everything else has been 50 and 51. So he's I just don't know if maybe he's that comfortable right now.
Sean Macbeth fans, good news for you. Sean just overtook Pete Mobrotten for P10. So he's now cracked the top 10 and is trying to chase down the next two in line, Espinoza and Arroyan. So Macbeth continuing his climb forward. I noticed that out of the corner of my eye because just behind them there was that little bit of a battle between Rooney and Peterson for position, and then suddenly into turn one, Macbeth manages to get himself one more. He's got about a second and a half up to Espinoza. Definitely doable with still 3/4 of the race left to go. Despite all the action we've seen, only 3 cars are out of this race. Trungale, Pisano, and Valenzuela. Last one running is Corey Clark in 28th. He is already a lap down, unfortunately.
And I went back to try to find what happened to Trungale. It was a couple laps ago, and he just kind of pulled off, so there was no incident there or anything.
Bright yellow car of Javi Utreres currently holds the final spot on the podium, but he leads 2 other cars behind him. Abner Acosta, who really wanted a podium last time, but couldn't quite peel it away from Modoff. And then behind them, it is Jorge Flores in P5.
Hey, how about Andres Espinoza? He's trying to make a move here, going down through turn 1. Orion's going to go ahead and give up that spot and let him have it.
Nicely done by Espinoza. Let's give that another look since we came in just at the end of it. This is down into Haug Hook. Ducks the Ferrari to the inside. Just neatly outbrakes him. And then comes off the corner quicker. There hasn't been a whole lot of wild, gutsy moves. It's all just been very clinical, very textbook today.
Very textbook and give and take, too. I mean, Jeffrey there, he didn't put up any kind of fight or try to come back on him or anything. He's like, okay, you got me. Take the position. I don't want to slow myself down, and he could hurt me later. And Espinoza was the benefactor of that. So, but I'm seeing mostly a lot of that give and take through the field. So lots of clean driving out there today.
Good to see, as we did have a bit of intense driving at the start of last race. I wonder if they realized no point in doing that, losing the leaders so quickly like they did at Watkins Glen. Going down to 21st, Uribe is another driver with a train behind him. He's got Takeshi Kita, Laster, and Tina. Now, Kita is one of those drivers who's kind of known in this series for qualifying at the back and slowly working his way forward with race pace. He hasn't done anything to write home about today, going from 26th to currently 22nd. He was 21st at the start of this lap, but he's lost out to Uribe. When he's slow through the chicane, Laster going to take a look to the inside of Coca-Cola, but Kita shut the door. Second bite of the apple. Still coming down the front stretch. There's that slipstream you were talking about, Adam, and he's going to get a defensive move, though. He's going to have to do this the hard way.
Yeah, I don't think anybody gave these guys that memo. They're still going at it hard.
Certainly are. Great job by Kita holding on to that position. Laster has to regroup and try again later as Tina watches on from behind them. Laster, one of the few running the Ford out here today. Still not a popular car, sadly.
Yeah, I think I counted 3 Fords out there earlier.
And he does get Kita this time down into Valvoline. Sends one into the corner. I didn't think that he was going to be able to make that stick. And finally gets himself up into 22nd. Kita losing 2 spots in 2 laps. getting intense as Espinoza for a moment was caught by Royan, but the accordion effect has brought him farther away once again. They do have a charging Sean Macbeth starting to breathe down their neck. But one thing we've seen in all racing, Adam, is that, as Macbeth comes in, I was about to say, the farther up the field you get, the harder it is to start make those passes.
He's right in that pit window too, so it's interesting. Maybe this is just a strategy play.
It could be. That could play into exactly what I was just talking about. That if it gets harder to try and pass the faster cars as you go higher up the field, maybe jump them in the pits. So he comes in as our earliest scheduled pitter. Still 2/3 of this race left to go. And most cars are starting to get their own little bit of real estate. You could see even our battle for third with Utreres leading Acosta and Flores. Though close, nobody's really been much closer than this for a good chunk of the race now.
Yeah, those guys there, they can't get away from one another. And, no surprise, they're all driving BMWs. I mean, 4 of your top 5 right now are the Beamers.
Certainly seem to be faring well at this track. Those and the Ferraris have taken up the top, looks like 10 spots I'm seeing before you get to the first Porsche, which is Daniel Rooney. Chicane once again. None of these drivers taking an early stop. We're going to elect to continue to stay out. Which, by the way, Sean Macbeth returned in P25. But he should be set to go till the finish.
The best part about what he's got right now, though, I mean, is at least for a while, he's going to have some clean racetrack to get ahead of him. And the next car he's going to have up is going to be Tyler Guimete, but then he's even got a long way for the next car before him. So these guys could very well be in their scheduled stops by the time Sean Macbeth even has to worry about passing anybody.
I wonder if there's something wrong with Takeshi Kita, because he just got overtaken by Tina. He's trying to come back at him as they come through the Haug hook, but he's on the outside and he doesn't have enough of an overlap into the Mercedes arena. But yet another position lost by Takeshi. Don't need to go back for the replay. He unfortunately just got outgunned out of the final corner. In front of them, how about William Laster? He's not done with his climb upwards. Uribe is next on his hit list. This has been a fine drive from the 307. Started 28th, didn't get a qualifying time in. He's up to 21st. He's looking to crack the top 20.
Hey, don't look now. There's a guy named Carl Modoff who's about gained a lot back of what he lost. He's making the attack right now on Rodrigo Muniz. He's trying to get around him.
I think he might have it here because he is right underneath the rear wing of the number 9.
I mean, if he could get a run here right past the chicane going into Coca-Cola, and then he's got Leif Peterson, who's bleeding more spots right in front of him. He very well could gain 2 more spots by the time we get to turn 1 here in a moment.
Late dive into Coca-Cola, but he makes it stick because he was given room by Munoz. For a second, I thought it was going to be very similar to what we saw before, even though he's got to continue this fight down to turn 1 because he almost lost it out of the chicane yet again. He's deeper on the brakes than the number 9, so he's going to be able to now take 14th.
Looking on board, Leif Peterson looking back over his rear wing, and well, I have a feeling Carl Modoff's getting ready to look a lot bigger through this view.
Yeah, if Leif isn't sweating, he's going to start sweating in a minute, because that is a 2-time champion who is in a hurry trying to overtake him. They come out of fourth, a little bit off the apex for Peterson, much tighter in for Karl Modoff. And that allows him the chance to think about a pass. Does he want it? Nope, not quite yet. He's going to stay behind through Dunlop.
Oh, over under though. He took that run, went with it. There he goes.
Makes it look easy. This has been a phenomenal job by the 948. Not sure that he's going to take another championship this season, but when he wants it, he certainly knows how to get the bit between his teeth.
And he's going to be on Nick Harwood here before too long, too. And that's about the spot where, you know, we saw some action around Nick Harwood earlier, so Modoff will probably want to try to make quick work of that. He's got a lot of open track, though, once he starts getting past these guys, so that's going to help him out quite a bit. And I also wouldn't be surprised that Modoff is one of the early takers here at some point, but these guys, we figured they could probably go about 40 minutes on fuel, so that's still about another 14 minutes to go that they've got as far as usable gas in the tank, we believe.
So as the drivers work their way towards the halfway mark, let's take a look. I'm kind of curious, actually, what's the pace difference between Modoff and the leaders? And does Tony Costello have something
it's hard to tell right now because you got to remember, a lot of those last couple of laps, Modoff has been running in a lot of traffic. So that might slow him down by a little bit. But Caraballo here the last little bit, I wouldn't be surprised if once Modoff gets into clean air, he's one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. But should add that Caraballo here just lost about a tenth to Michael Diaz the last little bit of a lap, kind of changing gears a little bit, but we could, if this trend continues, we could have a battle for the lead starting to shape up here over the next little bit.
That'll be tasty. Back into turn one, Justin Rame almost lost the car into a group of people. Let's see if we can find the replay here. This might be about 50 seconds back at this point. Yeah, here you're going to see it right there. Woo-hoo-hoo. Whoever that was in the yellow and gray machine, he's got to be thanking his lucky stars that he didn't go right down to the apex, because there was a Porsche suddenly facing a bit of the wrong way. Raymond himself has to feel a little lucky. That put him down in 16th. William Laster gonna be looking for another position. In fact, I think getting it. So Laster up to 19th now as he overtakes Josh Daniels. There's Laster in the Ford and Daniels in the orange Ferrari behind him. Let's take a look at that replay. Talk about the difficulties trying to make a pass into the NGK chicane. We've seen very few successful ones so far this race, but this was a good one.
Just to move with confidence and, you know, realize there wasn't any point in contending it, so he had the corner, let him take it, clean through the chicane.
Absolutely clean. Laster never looked out of shape, is a little bit out of shape there coming out of the Mercedes arena. Josh Daniels still trying to collect that car.
I'm telling you guys, though, up front, though, Diaz, he's right there. This is getting close here, Joe. I think about 6-7 tenths of a second now, and that's been closing the last little bit. He's definitely in the slipstream now.
Here you see the gap on screen between first and second place. So who's going to try and blink first? Come in.
Ooh,
for
he did not have a good exit of that chicane. That being Caraballo. That cost him a tenth or two at least right there.
Behind them, speaking of a tenth or two, Acosta might have an opportunity on Utreres for the first time we've seen all race. He is within the slipstream. They're coming down to the Haug hook. He hasn't ducked out of the racing line yet, though, and he's going to stay behind. Thought for sure he'd maybe have a go. Still staying right glued to the rear bumper of the number 10. They are being chased by Flores and the green BMW that you see behind them. Green and black of the Speedworks team. Just kind of give them a little bit of distance so that they don't wreck and collect him. Let's watch from his perspective as he's got a front row view of this nice little fight for the final spot on the podium. Down into Dunlop Curve. A little wide there for Acosta, but nice and tidy down to the inside for Utreres. The Schumacher S's once more. We have officially passed the halfway point. A little bit of a look into Michelin from Acosta, but nothing doing quite yet. We're not missing anything up at the top. They're just holding station up there. Contreras starting to respond slightly now, pulling something of a gap on Acosta compared to the start of last lap. Maybe it's this last corner he's struggling with. Let's see if Acosta gets any closer. He does in mid-corner. Off the corner, not particularly great, unfortunately, for the number 5. So not going to get the same opportunity that he got last time down into the Haug hook. And Utreres knows that he ducks it down to the apex and continues on as we watch this battle for third place. So we still have only had, let's see, no, I take that back. We have had another scheduled stop, I believe, because Matthew Tina looks like he's been in and out based on that pit stop time. Otherwise, it's just him and Sean Macbeth. Macbeth running 23rd. But really, I think you called it, Adam, that this was a great move from him to try and jump a lot of the cars up at the front, because he's passed, I think it was Gomet, but other than that, he's got 10 seconds ahead to the next car. So he's just running in clean air, nothing but clean air.
Yeah, these lap times that he's running are pretty comparable to what everybody else was running at the start of their runs at the beginning of the race. So I think he's going to be coming out a very, very good spot once everything's said and done.
Battle for a spot here on screen. That's Rooney you see chasing Mobrotten. If they battle too much, they're going to get a friend. Karl Modhoff is up to 12th now, and he's got about 2.5 seconds to make up on this pair.
And Karl Modhoff, by the way, the third fastest car on the racetrack. I'll give you a clue who the first two are, though. and by the way, speaking of that, Moses running P1, he did not have a good exit of Coca-Cola just a second ago. Ran a little wide, got onto the curb out there, and I saw the front end of his Ferrari kind of bend up just a little bit. So I'll have to see what happens with that. But Michael Diaz, he's still closing.
And Rooney is in. Rooney pits, one of our drivers fighting up at the front. So coming down, trundling under the pit limiter now. I want to say that Macbeth was going to be close to him. Hadn't Macbeth cracked the top 10 in the pit? He's coming around the final corner now as Munoz also in the pits. Rooney stationary. They're looking for 12 to 14 second pit stops. 13 seconds is a nice number for him. But unfortunately, Macbeth is going to be able to sneak by before he can get up to speed. There you see him just flash out of your screen.
I think that was a solid strategy play on Macbeth's part.
Rooney returns 22nd. Macbeth with that position now comes up to 21st and is the highest of our pit stop takers. Ooh, did Diaz cut this down again? It is back down to half a second.
He's telling you, he's Caraballo, he's beginning to feel the pressure that Diaz is putting on him for sure. He's still fast, but he's not running as clean a lines as what he is. And right there, I mean, Diaz just closes up right underneath him going through Haug, but it just doesn't seem like he's just as smooth. You know what I mean? Just looking at it.
I know exactly what you mean. I wonder if he's got Moises a little rattled. Oh, more of our top drivers coming in. We are getting close to the end of that pit window. So Utreris, Hefner, Arroyan. We're finally going to start to see exactly where Macbeth comes out in terms of his strategy. He's coming through the NGK chicane right now. Utreris is out first. And he is well ahead of Macbeth. Hefner out as well. Why is Arroyan in there so long? What if he got... Oh, I think Jeff got himself a speeding penalty.
Oh.
15 seconds longer than normal. So we have now switched out Sean Macbeth as your highest car who's pitted. It is Javi Utreris who is in 12th. Hefner, when he came out, he was just ahead of Sean Macbeth by about 7 seconds. Hefner is the second car to have pitted. And then Macbeth is now the third. Taking a look at Zach. Started this race in 7th position, but he's waiting for a few drivers to pit to really see where he comes out. I know he was as high as 6th. In fact, I think he was running in 6th for pretty much the entire race so far. Still no stops from our two leaders, and still half a second between them. Significantly, they have left Abner Acosta behind, who is currently in 3rd. By about 6 seconds.
Yeah,
Pete Rotten in the meantime in.
It's like as soon as Diaz started getting close, it's like they kicked on the afterburners and started getting after it, and it really started to separate themselves out.
Down to his stall. Mo Broughton comes to a halt. He's going to have a little ways to go before he can get off that pit limiter and get up to speed, so he's going to lose out to Hefner. He's going to lose out to Macbeth, though. This is going to be a little tight. Nope, Macbeth is clearly by. Driver he's going to come out in front of is Daniel Rooney, which slots Mo Broughton up to 19th. The driver who used to win a number of races often in this series is the 727 of Christian Eisler. And I feel kind of bad because sometimes we use him as a marker for the level of talent. But this driver who used to fight for victories is currently 14 seconds behind the next car up, and he's running P5. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. 21 minutes left to go. I wonder if we're going to start to see everybody left dash on in this time through.
Just knows a lot of people with the eyes at the front when these two guys are going to be coming in.
We're on our leaders, and Caraballo responding slightly. It's hovering between 6 and 7 tenths of a second instead of down to 5. Through the Ford hairpin, down on their way towards Dunlop. He drops back yet another 10th, and Diaz, last week, he played a little bit of possum, Adam. He, unfortunately for Karl Modoff, just kind of sat and waited, and after the pit stops, he pounced and then left him behind. I'm not sure that that's the case here. I mean, to me, this reads like this is legitimate pace, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If he's got something secret, and I figure he'd be laying it all on the line by now, because I mean he has really had to drive this race car in order to keep, in order to get for this battle to be as good as what it is. I mean, it's been It hasn't been side by side at all, but you tell these guys are driving on the ragged edge right now, both of them. They're at least going to go around another lap here, but look how wide Carballo runs through Coca-Cola there. I'm surprised Diaz didn't get as much of a gain on him as what he could. He might have been trying to figure out why he was trying to run so wide.
Yeah, that was a costly mistake for Carballo. We've also got Flores pitting now. Again, Utreres is our highest pitter, but Utreres is actually in the midst of a battle currently with a car who has not yet pitted. That is Stogbauer. And they're side by side on their way up into the education
second
game.
place. Michael Diaz just almost broke loose on the back half of the hog hook. He's going to lose a lot of time here. In retrospect, Carballo, he's still in sight, but that's at least a second he's going to lose.
Yeah, it looks like through the Mercedes arena.
Almost looks like his front end lost grip more than anything.
Yeah. Right. Let's watch his hands here. He's definitely counter steering. Catch though. But that puts him 1.2 seconds back, unfortunately. So that tight battle that we've been watching has fallen away. If he runs him back down, I get the feeling that it is a case of Michael Diaz just kind of biding his time.
And if not, I'd expect I really, if what we were told about the pit window here is accurate, I expect both these guys to come in right now. But if I'm Diaz, regardless, I'm coming in right now just to, not make a bad situation worse as far as losing that time. But nope, here they both come. I think Diaz was waiting for Carballo to what he's going to do, but Carballo almost loses it on pit entry. He kind of slid it through there.
Yeah, that was a late entry from both of them, cutting across those red and white lines. I don't believe they get an unsafe entry if they do that. They should be okay.
And that's Acosta coming in behind them. Eisler now coming down. Espinosa coming down. I expect Modov to come down this time by too.
I think we found the limit.
Yeah, right where the grass starts, I think might be the limit.
I meant the fuel, but too.
That too.
Both count.
It works.
Yeah. Karl Modov comes on in. And where is he pitting from, actually? 6th place. Some of that will be handed back as we're going to have Flores go by. Utreres will get by. Zach Hefner slinging around Coca-Cola. Modov, though, with him not putting a qualifying time in, his pit stop slot is all the way towards the back. Eisler out. And Modov is out, and he is going to be 10th position. Not a bad recovery.
No, it is not. I mean, great drive. Despite that one incident, it's just been a great drive by Karl Modov here this afternoon.
So what happened to our battles? I'm curious. Diaz came back out about the same amount away from Carballo. About 1.5 seconds between the top two. However, it looks like Eisler and Hefner have something of a battle brewing for P6. This is down the backside of the course, out of the Schumacher S and into Michelin. Car that you see just behind them from time to time, that is the Ferrari of Andre Espinosa. Hood of Zach Hefner's car, looking up at Christian Eisler. He's getting awful close too. Zach looks like he is eager to make this one happen quick. From under the rear wing of Christian Eisler, he gets a decent run. I don't know if this is going to be good enough though. stay in line. Down into the Haug hook. Once again closes. Now down to 15 minutes left on the clock. This is one of our closest battles out on track. I've seen Tyler Gilmet come in. Is this his first or second stop?
Yeah, I want to say it's the second. I think I saw him come in earlier.
That is a shame that he's got to spend all that time trying to play makeup. Still on board with Zach Hefner, looking ahead through the Dunlop curve on Christian Eisler. Hounding him at every corner. The question is, can he elicit a mistake out of the Hispano-American? So it's got to be difficult for Christian, knowing that he is hiding out back there and has got very good pace as they come up the backstretch towards the NGK chicane. Still have 26 drivers running here today so far. Ooh, getting all the closer. This is all he needs, is this good exit off the final corner. Hefner gets it. This gives him the slipstream on Christian Eisler. So Eisler defends down to the middle of the track, down fully to the inside now as he tries to come back. But look at Hefner on the brakes, locking up the tires, both of them with puffs of smoke around the apex and around the outside. It's going to be Zach Hefner with a gorgeous move.
Yeah, I really felt like Eisler was starting to hold him up there a little bit. I was wondering when Hefner was going to make that move. Took his chance going down to Haug. Just nailed it. At least his brakes feels like he just nailed it.
Yeah, I'd say so. Did we miss something with Espinoza? I see him grayed out. I wonder if he just had a connection issue here. Yeah, he just completely disappeared on my screen. I do not see a... Ooh, we're hearing he might have gone over his incident limit because I don't see a manual disconnect.
Hey, here's a good battle shaping up between two guys that we've been keeping an eye on through the day. Sean Macbeth, Carl Modoff. Modoff has just ran him down here the last little bit.
Oh, is this a perfect storm? We've got Sean Macbeth trying to get back to 6th place. He's almost there in 8th. And we've got Carl Modoff trying to make up for a lack of qualifying due to internet problems. So which one has more willpower in this situation? Who wants to get higher up in the field before the clock ticks down to 0? Mighty fast. Around Coca-Cola and onto the front stretch. Eisler staying within the slipstream. I get the feeling that he wants to at least make an attempt. He's a little far back. He gets his nose down to the inside, but then comes back to the racing line. Oh, but he's given space at the apex by Macbeth.
Two guys racing hard, but still giving each other room. Modoff, though, here is going to sneak his nose in.
Wow. That is rare that you see a pass coming into one of the corners in the Mercedes arena. He goes the long way around out of the Mercedes arena to give himself the inside down into Valvoline. He is fully alongside his rival, and now he is fully past Sean Macbeth, who gets shuffled back to 9th after gaining so many positions.
These guys in front of Carl Modoff now, that's going to be Eisler and Hefner. They're running about a second slower than what Modoff is, so he should have time to catch them before this thing is done.
This is going to be great because we've seen Eisler and Modoff go back and forth before in seasons past. But that battle having settled out, I think we've got some time to run through the fields and get everybody up to speed on what the stories have been so far. Let's go up to Caraballo Ever since the mistake that we saw from the car behind, our leader has been inching away once again. We saw this at the start of the race, and he's repeating the feat now that he's broken the draft. But Diaz hasn't given up. It is staying within about 1.6, 1.7 seconds. All it takes is a little mistake, just like Diaz did from Caraballo, excuse me, I'll get the name right eventually. Diaz could be on top of him with the slightest of errors. Third place is Abner Acosta, who just hasn't had the pace for the front two cars, but has been running very good pace still. It's just he unfortunately has a deeper talent pool now to deal with, and Jorge Flores runs P4 in one of our closest fights at the front, half a second separating him and fifth place Javi Utreres.
And looking at Javi Utreres, he's been involved in his own battles here pretty much all race long, and of course still involved with that one with Jorge Flores. But we have to go a long way back. We'll find Zachary Hefner and Eisler have been going at. They're running 6th and 7th right now, and Zachary Hefner's been in the thick of it all race long, and still in the thick of it as he's going to be trying to hold off Eisler over the next, well, about 3 or 4 laps to the end of this thing. Go back to Eisler. Eisler did give up that position to Hefner just a few minutes ago, and Eisler continues to try to turn laps and see if he can't catch back up to him. But as long as he can keep him in sight, I think that's going to be all right. Now the big question is going to be, can Modov catch these guys? He's running an 8th. Terrific drive from where he started. He's up 19 positions. I can't even count, he's been up so many. But Karl Modov definitely on the move right now, one of the fastest race cars on this track. He just got around Sean Macbeth. Sean Macbeth, of course, one of the guys that ran pitted very early on, about 20 minutes into this race. The first car to come down pit road, trying to recover after a very active first lap that cost him a few positions. He's almost back up to that starting position that he had at 6. He was at the tail end of this field at one point.
There's your top 10. There's 8 minutes left to go. And a little bit of a fight forming for 15th though. Jeff Arroyan, who recently had a half spin in Dunlop, has Michael Stogbauer trying to see if he can get something off of him. Michael was our driver that gave us a lot of action in Monza. He's trying to give us even more now that we've jumped over to Germany, but nothing doing down into the Haug Hook. You see Leif Peterson in the gray and blue machine behind them every once in a while in the background. He could make it a 3-car fight. We'll have to wait and see, though.
Just had another car disconnected, I'm guessing because of incident limit, and that was Matthew Tina. I think a lot of these guys are picking that up going through the chicane, Joe.
Yeah, there's a lot of paved runoff areas, so I guess they're pushing the limits where they shouldn't, or at least too much of the limit is being pushed. As well as this battle on screen, there's something of a battle forming for P4. This is Flores and Utreres. So as we bring the cameras over there, the yellow car Utreres actually pretty close down the front stretch. I wonder if he's going to be able to attack Flores. He hasn't looked yet.
Oh, he's going to try to outbrake him here.
Late. Woo!
He's going to get him.
Mugged him. Showed no sign of going for it until the absolute last second. Turned it in early, and that moves Utreres up to 4th. Element of surprise in the favor of the bright yellow car, which you can't really miss, but certainly seemed like he was able to pull a sneak attack on Flores. Let's watch this one more time.
He just, classic outbraking maneuver. He waited real late to show what he was going to do, but at the same time, Flores, I think, he was almost expecting that move to happen, so lots of room given. They were able to stay out of it.
So we come back live with 5 minutes now left to go. What was a tense race up at the front has lost a little bit of its steam. 2.2, 2.3 seconds between Caraballo and Diaz.
You know, it between Carballo and Diaz, it really fell apart there right before the pit stop when Diaz's car kind of broke loose a little bit. It just has not been the same since. It hasn't been able to get back to the back bumper of Carballo.
Ooh, Stogbauer with some issues. He's off the track, and this was of his own doing. He was trying to catch a Royan out of the Ford hairpin. So you can see the results of that.
Yeah,
Here we go.
BMW is not an off-road vehicle.
Well, he's tried to make it one, and the gravel and the grass didn't like it. Bad bounce, hard into the Armco. He eventually gets going, but he's down to 22nd, which is something of a shame considering how he was running. Ever close to the end of this thing as we check in on Pete Mobrotten in P11. Daniel Rooney just ahead of him. There you see the BMW up ahead. So we're doing 150, 149, 148 laps. So we're going to see that white flag come out here. Maybe 2.5 left to go for the drivers out on track. And he is really stalking Rudy. Mobrotten wants to get himself into the top 10. Not really a significant difference other than your pride.
Yeah, but every little point will count toward the end of the season.
This is true. To know that Pete will be involved in the championship fight. Get a better idea as time goes on.
Bragging rights. Bragging rights.
They come through the NGK chicane. We're a little bit too far back for now, but trying to set himself up for a launch off of the final corner, and he gets one. Gonna tuck up to the rear bumper, look down to the inside, tries to outbrake him. We've seen this work once before, and it's gonna work a second time. Pete Mobrotten now up to 10th position. Now down to 2 minutes to go. Where is our leader? Going to be white flag this time by for Moises Caraballo. It's up to 1.8 seconds ahead of Michael Diaz. Unless something drastic, unless some lap traffic severely hampers the number 827. This is basically his for the taking.
Should point out the last couple of laps, Diaz has shaved off almost 0.7 of a second off Caraballo. He's just going to simply run out of time to make any kind of run here.
It's a what could have been situation for Michael, considering a chunk of this time lost was when he nearly spun the car coming through this section, the Mercedes Arena.
And by the way, Modoff is on Eisler's back bumper now to try to take 7th position away. So that's going to be a battle to watch here over the course of the last lap after Carballo crosses the line.
Looking forward to this fight between these two. The 948 looking to overtake the 727. The only unexpected thing is that it's for the bottom half of the top 10 here that they're fighting for. What a change one season makes. 2 seasons ago. If you're just joining us, the reason why we're focusing so much on Carl is not just because he's a 2-time champion. It's his first championship he won by winning literally every single round of that season, all 10 races. As we jump back to Moises Caraballo, he's looking to go 2 for 3 at the start of this season. And I think this green and black Ferrari is going to be able to do just that. He's got Cody Bauman up ahead of him. He's in 24th and has not gone a lap down yet. We'll see if he lets our leader by and has no interest in completing that final lap. But it doesn't look like he has any interest in handing that over, because here comes Moises Caraballo for win number 2 here in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series.
Diaz will pick up the second. Acosta's coming home in 3rd position. A well-ran race by him, and Ucharis in 4th. And Boris is going to round out the top 5 here, Joe.
Remember watching Eisler with Modov. Well, Modov fell back, and now it's between Hef and Eisler. But it's almost a second between them. I'm pretty certain that Hef has this, and indeed, the 1, 2, 3 car is going to get himself a nice little 6th place, followed by Eisler in 8th and Modov all the way down in, 7th, and then Modov down in 8th behind him. I don't see any other battles behind them. Everybody's real spaced out. You see Rooney coming across. Mo Broughton with a nice top 10. Depending on who you ask, Modov could be your hard charger today with starting 27th, but he didn't put a qualifying time in. Everybody now streaming across. Last one through. It's going to be the one we mentioned before, Tyler Gilmette. You see the Ford up the hill, through the chicane, and around Coca-Cola, the final corner of this 60-minute race. Tyler Gilmette will bring it home. So let's take a quick break here. Take a moment to catch our breath as you see the upcoming races on your screen. But after that, we'll give you the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. And stick around for those. Welcome back to the Nürburgring. It was round 3 here for the PRL GTE Sportscar Series, and Moises Carballo, when he didn't have someone spin him on the first lap, well, the last 2 times he's won the races, so 2 for 3 for the 827. Michael Diaz finishes second behind him, not too far back. He kept him honest, but didn't really seem to have the best pace for Carballo, especially at the end. Abner Acosta well back there, 6 seconds behind the leader in 3rd place, and Javi Utreras with a good fight to take 4th at the end, ahead of Jorge Flores. Zach Hefner wound up taking 6th with Christian Eisler 7th, just ahead of the non-qualifying Carl Modoff, going from 27th on the grid to 8th. Sean Macbeth didn't have the same sort of problem, as he did qualify in 6th and winds up 9th, but that doesn't tell the whole story because, well, he fell all the way back to the end of the field at the start of the race due to what we believe was a slowdown penalty. 10th behind him goes to Pete Mobrotten.
Yeah, I'm looking at 11th place on back. You'll find Daniel Rooney. Kind of a quiet day for Daniel Rooney, a quiet 11th place. Nick Harwood had a little excitement at times, though. 12th position, 13th goes to William Laster. We saw his battle on screen. Justin Rim had that spin earlier on. Jeffrey Orion, 15th. Leif Peterson. Leif actually recovered a few spots right there at the end, but he definitely not having the day I expect Leif Peterson to have. 17th position goes to Tony Costello, Rodrigo Munez in 18th, Pablo Uribe coming home in 19th position, Joshua Daniels in 20th.
21st goes to Takeshi Kita, so he at least still made forward progress. Michael Stogbauer had problems at the end and winds up 22nd. Tyler Gilmet was 23rd with Cody Bauman 24th, and last car on the lead lap, I was wrong, it wasn't Tyler, it was Cody who brought it home. Corey Clark, unfortunately, I think he had a DNF today. He was 25th. Same with Espinoza, 26th. Matthew Tina, 27th. Kenny Rodriguez, 28th. Joey Trungell, 29th. Anthony Pisano, 30th. And I think Valenzuela was a did not start today, unfortunately. We do have our winner ready to talk to us, Moises Carballo, who has now won his 2nd race of the season. Moises, now that you didn't have Carl Modoff behind you early in the race, it seems like Michael Diaz had pretty good pace to stay with you, but it never seemed like he quite challenged you.
Hello, everybody.
There we got you.
Was a very difficult race because Michael has a good pace, and I have to push a little bit more. And lap by lap, he was like doing the same laps with me, the same rhythm of race, and I have to push a little bit more before the pit stop, so I can get a gap and have to maintain that gap.
You've now really shown that you're forced to be reckoned with. I get the feeling that if it hadn't have been for the incident at the start of Monza in the first round, you would be 3 for 3 now. Do you feel the same way?
Racing. I don't know if in Monza I can get that race win, but I will do my best in the rest of the champ. I can't drop any more race, so I have to be very constant in the next race.
Well, 2 wins in a row is definitely very constant. Is there anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I would like to thank to the Euphoria DriveX racing team. Thanks to all the guys of the team that I represent. They helped me with the setup, with the race pace, everything. And guys, this win is for you.
Oh, that's great to give that one to the team. And that is our winner, Moises Carballo. Very gentlemanly driver, apparently. Adam's going to talk to our 2nd place finisher, Michael Diaz.
Hey, Michael, congratulations on a 2nd place finish here for today, but I have to feel that there was points during that race where you felt like it could have been more today. Go ahead and tell us about it.
Hi guys, first of all. I was pushing really hard. I really couldn't find a balance all week for the car. At some point I got close, but then I almost lost it, and then that was basically it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I noticed up here in the booth. But even then, while you were there, though, you were definitely making it tough on Moises there. And, he even complimented you, said, talk about your pace and everything else. What can we expect here for you next few weeks? Are you going to be able to duplicate these finishes you've been having?
I hope so. The calendar, I don't think it really suits me besides Monza and maybe Le Mans. For example, I never driven the BMW at this track, so it was really tough all week. But anyways, Moises had like a excellent pace. I did my best, but I couldn't really match it.
Well, either way, though, still a good show here for today, up front all day long. Anybody you'd like to thank before we send you off here?
Just all of my friends that are actually never mind.
Okay. Well, hey, Michael, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you next week.
Oh, yeah. First, I like to thank LB. He helps me a lot. So, thanks.
All right. Well, there's Michael Diaz there for you.
Yeah, our second place finisher. Third place goes to Abner Acosta. He was in a battle for that third for quite a while, trying to chase down Javi Utrez. Abner, do you think if it wasn't for having to try and overtake that third spot that you could have kept up with the leaders, or was that everything that you had?
No, that was definitely everything I had. I think I was slightly faster than Javi, but just not fast enough to pass him. But yeah, I was definitely going all out.
It did seem like for a while that second group that you were in, those three cars battling for third, were almost at a bit of a stalemate. Was it tough to pass out there today? Was the WEC pretty bad in these cars?
I think I don't think it's just that it was tough to pass. I think everybody's pace is just almost equal. And I think that's the main reason. Everybody was just so close in pace, except the first two, I guess. But it was just a really close.
The next round is going to be up in Canada at Mosport. And speaking of difficult to pass, that is a very fast and very punishing track. Do you have a good history there?
Yeah, I actually like that track. I think out of the schedule, this one was my toughest track. I did so many laps. I'm glad we're moving forward from here. But yeah, I like the next.
The worst is behind you then. Well, congratulations on another podium. Makes up for just missing out last week, and can't wait to see you in Canada.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for hosting.
That was Abner Acosta, who was a fourth at Watkins Glen, fighting Modoff the whole way for that one. That's going to wrap things up for us today with a big thank you to our sponsors before we go. The first one being Simulation Motorsports Affinity. Again, you can find them at simsa.net if you want to see what they can do for you, rather, in the world of sim racing. And also, it's a butt kicker. Their website is thebuttkicker.com. And again, we've got some prizes on the line from them here in this series that the drivers are competing for. Also, thanks to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Make sure and go and subscribe to them. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page. If you're not there already, click the big red button that says subscribe, and then you get all of the PRL GTE Sports Car series in your YouTube feed. Thanks go to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media, including Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, going over to Canada, boy, we keep zipping across the Atlantic here. It's a good thing we don't have to pay for plane tickets. We'll go to Mosport for Tuesday, July 9th. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.